Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinar series, our endeavor to empower techniques. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Design and Develop Richer Apps, Reach More Clients Using ASP.NET MVC4 and jQuery Mobile. Our guest speaker today is Ms. Pradanya Nayak, Senior Member, Technology Center of Excellence, Pfizer, India. Pradanya Nayak is a technology enthusiast. She is a regular speaker in academic and developer conferences held in Pune. She is one of the organizers of Pune User Group, a community of most valuable professionals, students and tech experts exploring, experimenting, and conducting sessions on Microsoft technologies. She is involved in research and development, prototyping, consulting teams on technology challenges, and development for mobile and desktop platforms. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Ms. Pradanya.
Yeah, good afternoon everyone, and this is Pradnya Naik from Pfizer, India. So today we have our session on design and develop richer apps and reach more clients using ASP.NET MVC4 and jQuery Mobile. So let's get started. Our agenda for today's session is, it would be the overview of ASP.NET MVC pattern, then a walkthrough of an application developed in ASP.NET MVC4. Then we would have a demo of the new features in ASP.NET MVC4. We would see what jQuery Mobile is all about. How do we incorporate jQuery Mobile in ASP.NET MVC4? And finally, we would be upgrading our application developed in ASP.NET MVC4 using jQuery Mobile. So, what is MVC? MVC is a design pattern. It is an architectural pattern wherein you create your web applications in 3 separate modules. The first thing is the model, which represents the domain or your business logic. You have the controller who is going to handle and respond to the user inputs and the interactions. And finally, you have the view, which displays the user interface. So if there is a browser who is making a request, okay, the model will represent the domain or the business logic, and the controller will decide which view to render or represent depending upon the user inputs. So MVC pattern will make your web application more scalar, more modular, and it will divide your web application into these 3 important components: the model, the view, and the controller. Now, so these are the benefits of MVC. In MVC, if you use the normal ASP.NET web forms and if you use ASP.NET MVC, the benefits of MVC pattern include the simplified development, wherein it uses the stateless nature of HTTP. Now, because of this, code maintenance is also very easy because your application is divided into models, views, and controllers. So code maintenance is easy. Further on, everything is isolated. Hence, testing these individual components is not also a tedious task. And as a result, ASP.NET MVC is one of the preferred platforms for developing web applications over ASP.NET Web Forms. Now, when you come to the MVC4, MVC4 has got new features related to mobile application development. It has got features of bundling and minification. You can easily migrate your databases. There is support for web APIs. There are excellent features for mobile application development. There is support for real-time communication. and the asynchronous support is also good. So because of all these features, ASP.NET MVC4 is being used for web application development. Okay. So if you see this slide, you'll understand that nowadays in the market, there are many devices that have come up. You have your mobile phones, you have your laptops, you have your tablets. When you create a web application, the current scenario says that you have to create a web application for your mobile, you have to create a web application for your desktop, and you have to create a web application for your tablet. But if the web application is serving the same functionality, there is a tedious job of you going ahead and maintaining these applications, because the UI and the code base is separate for all these applications, though the functionality is same. So this is tedious, it is time consuming. Code maintenance is a headache because there are different code bases and there are different UIs for these devices. So we need to cut down on these costs, we need to cut down on our code maintenance, we need to cut down on our testing efforts. That's why the need of the hour is that why don't we have a single code base, and why do not we have separate user interfaces for these devices? So our main aim is that we just manage the business logic and let there be different UIs created for specific devices like tablets, the PCs, and the mobiles. And this is where ASP.NET MVC4 will play a major role. ASP.NET MVC4 with its new set of features allows us to have a single code base. You manage your business logic at one place and you create specific UIs for various devices, so that the only part to maintain is user interface, and that too it can be handled using simple markup tags. You do not need to worry about how am I going to handle the business logic for a particular device. The only concern is how will I create a separate UI, which is very easy for these devices. So let us see a sample application which is developed in ASP.NET MVC4. Okay, so this is our Electro Store MVC application. It is, if I run the project, I have anyways kept it as a startup project, and I have kept Internet Explorer as my default browser. So I press Ctrl F5 and run the application. Here I have my application up and running. That is the Electro Store MVC based application. This application is basically a shopping site wherein you can shop for your electronic gadgets. And for the demo purpose, I have created the landing page as the mobiles section. So this is the Electro Store application. The demo application, which would be further enhanced to work on the mobile devices. So you have the landing page, that's your home page. This is your set of categories, which is the electronic categories, gadgets category. Then because this is the landing page wherein I am going to buy mobiles, I have the options to select the companies, I have the options to select the features, and finally I have a detailed overview of what are the features in a specific mobile, what is the company, what's the model, the memory, what's camera, and all that, and finally the buy now. button. So my landing page is giving me a lot of information about what are the categories in the electronic gadgets, what are the features I have to select, the search results, and finally a tabular view of the devices. The About page tells us about what Electro Store is, and the Contact page you will have to enter your name, your email ID, your mobile, what type of query you want to go for, notes, and you submit. So this is a sample demo application called as Electro Store, where I have created just to show that how application development is being done in ASP.NET MVC4. So if you have to go to see the structure, I have used a database. So my database and all the data logic is stored in the app data folder. Then whatever configuration files are required for my project, they are present in the app start folder. My site requires theming. So the themes, the CSS files, the style sheets, all of these related to the site are kept in the content folder. Now comes the MVC pattern. Controllers, which is going to take care of the user inputs, which is going to take in the data from the database. This is the home controller. I will require one controller to take care of my user inputs and query the database. Then I have my images folder, wherein these are the images required across the site. I have my models folder. Here is where my domain is represented, and this ADO.NET entity model is being mapped to the electronics item database. So here I have my models. These are all the jQuery files which I would be requiring for my application. And finally the views. Okay, the views are in razor sharp syntax, and the home contains all the views related to the home page, the contact, and the about page. And shared, in the shared folder we have the views or the layout and the structure which will be used across the entire application. So this is my ASP.NET MVC project architecture for the folder. Okay, so now just let us see what we have in index.chtml. And I would also open the home controller.cs. So home controller has got an object to connect to the database. Okay, and finally you have these methods which will take the action result, it will take the view, and finally it will take the set of items which need to be rendered onto a page of index. So once, if you see the database, I have a table named as Electro item, and I have stored the values for these two items into my database. Okay, now my job is that the controller, I code in such a way that the controller decides what view to return and what set of items to be returned to be rendered into the view. So this is handled by the home controller logic. And this is the index view, wherein you have the set of categories written. Here you have the set of options that you saw on the first page. And finally, we are writing the razor sharp syntax, which is a mix-up of the code language and the markup language together to get the items from the database. We are returning a model, and from the model we are able to fetch the data. So this is the code that we have written. We are iterating through every item, and the items will be displayed respectively in these tables. So finally, when the view is rendered, it is the index view, where you have your list of categories, you have the features, and these two items are rendered from the database. So this is the only logic for the index page. The home page and the contact page are similar HTML pages where there is no data pulling. The home page pulls the data from the database. Now if I go to see this site in the normal browser of a mobile, so what I would be using is an Opera mobile emulator. I would be launching one of the profiles. And if I go to see this site on the screen, I do not get a good view of the site. I have to zoom in, navigate to the page, again zoom out, come back. If I click on the About section, again I have to zoom in. Then the header is not in place. If I go onto the contact page, the elements are out of the screen. Again I have to zoom out, zoom in. So the screen is not well adapted to work on mobiles. Now how does ASP.NET MVC4 and jQuery Mobile make such an application which is going to render onto this mobile? So I would be closing my emulator and going back to my presentation. So if we have to take care of mobile development, that is mobile web application development, ASP.NET can be clubbed up with jQuery to enhance the user interface, and inbuilt it has got two mechanisms. One is a view overriding mechanism and the other is the display modes mechanism. These two mechanisms will be used to create mobile specific views which are adapted to different mobile devices. So what is view overriding mechanism? In view overriding mechanism, the browser makes a request. I want a page. Now the ASP.NET MVC4 engine will decide whether the request is done by the desktop browser or whether is it made by a browser on the mobile device. And it will fetch the page accordingly by the naming convention. So if you have a view named as view.mobile.chtml, when the browser on a mobile device requests the view, the ASP.NET MVC4 engine is going to fetch this view. And if it is a browser on the desktop, it is going to go to our normal view. So this is a new feature in called as view overriding mechanism that's out of box in ASP.NET MVC4. And then finally you have the display modes mechanism. What if you have to create views specific to the device? That is, you have to create views specific to the iPhone. You have to create views specific to the Windows Phone, or you have to create views specific to BlackBerry. So in display modes mechanism, you can write the logic to tell the engine that when there is a request made from a specific device, render that view. So this diagram tells that if you have a browser which is requesting a view, if it's coming from an iPhone device, okay, please render the view named as view.iphone.html. And if there is a request coming from Windows Phone 7, a mobile browser on Windows Phone 7 device, then please render a view which has got the extension of view.wp7.chtml. Okay, so let us see a very short demo on these mechanisms. Okay, I have my Electro store MVC. Now the first demo would be on view overriding mechanism. Okay, so this is my shared folder. I would copy this layout.chtml file and paste it again in the shared folder. I would rename this to underscore layout dot mobile.chtml. So when the request is coming from a browser on the mobile, the layout.mobile.chtml view is rendered. And what I would do is I would just write here, I will remove all this stuff. Okay, and now if I try to browse through the same URL onto my mobile browser, yeah. So this is the view that you see. This is the view that you see. The complete CSS rendering has gone out of the MVC based application, and the engine is actually rendering the layout.mobile.chtml. It is not rendering layout.html. But when you go to the normal browser which is there on the desktop and you press F5, my view is not changed. So here the engine is deciding what view to render when there is a request from the browser. If you see the page out here and page out here, it's completely different. It is rendering the mobile file and this is rendering the normal file. So this is the first mechanism that is called as the view overriding mechanism. Now we have the display modes mechanism. So I will just change this to say iPhone. Okay, and in my global.asax, that is where at the application start, I will make some initializations saying that if there is a request from a device, from an iPhone device, please render layout.iphone.chtml. So I am making views specific to the device. So display modes mechanism will first detect the device and then render the view depending upon the naming convention. So I will build this project. Okay, and here I would write iPhone. Okay, what I would be using is I would be seeing the same URL, opening my Firefox browser, changing the user agent to iPhone, and now seeing the site. Okay, so here you have it. So if you see it, the Firefox, I have changed the user agent to iPhone 3, hence it is not the default agent, and the website is capable of detecting that it is coming from a device of iPhone because it is detecting the user agent. So this is the display override mechanism, wherein you are telling specifically that if there is a view and if there is a request from the iPhone device, that is the user agent has to be the iPhone, then please render a view which has got the naming convention of layout.iphone.chtml, and here you can write all your logic for the UI, which is going to make a similar look and feel to your iPhone application. So this is it. If I refresh it again, this is my iPhone layout. If I go back to my normal browser and if I refresh it, this is it. And if I go out here, I am not sure what I'm going to get, but let me just press enter. It's going to be normal because this device is not iPhone, hence the user agent is not an iPhone device. It will render the default view. That's it. So we have seen two mechanisms: view overriding mechanism and the display mode mechanism. But if you see these two features, they are not enhancing the site adaptive to the mobile device. How can we do that? Now that is possible using jQuery mobile. So what is jQuery mobile? jQuery mobile, it is a UI framework for building cross-platform web-based applications. So how does a jQuery mobile decide whether the page, when it is getting rendered, it is being rendered onto a mobile device? So jQuery mobile uses a technique as follows. It first searches the elements in the HTML page with the data star attributes. Once it locates those data star attributes, it will inject all the styling, the behavior and the events into these elements. And finally, it is going to render this UI onto the mobile. So when it comes, now ASP.NET MVC4 along with jQuery mobile are going to make this possible because the MVC4 is going to detect the mobile view. And in the mobile view, we would be writing all the HTML form elements with the data star attribute. jQuery mobile will then again apply all the styling and combination, and finally you will have a view which will have a consistent look and feel across your applications on the mobile. So if you have to incorporate jQuery mobile in ASP.NET MVC4, there are two ways. The first way is you right-click references on your project, you select manage NuGet packages, and you install the MVC jQuery.mobile.mvc package. And the second method is use the package manager console and just type install package jQuery.mobile.mvc. So let us see our final application. So I would be coming out of this and I would be going to my next project, that is Electro Store Mobile MVC, and I will make it as a startup project. So what is the difference out here? These two projects are same, but this has got the jQuery.mobile.mvc package installed. So I right click on the references, then I clicked on manage NuGet packages, and because I have this package already installed, I get a tick mark here. If the package is not installed, it will give you an install button, and then all the packages required for using jQuery mobile.mvc would be added to your project. So I close. So if you see, the additions would be in the content folder where you have all the CSS files related to jQuery mobile, and finally the site.mobile.css. You will have scripts added to your scripts folder, and there would be a layout.mobile.chtml file. So these are the three things that would be added when you add a NuGet jQuery.mobile.mvc package. It will also add viewstart.html, to say viewswitcher.html, wherein it will tell you that whether you want to switch between the desktop view or whether you want to switch between the mobile view. This is because this sentence will take care if you wish to see the desktop view onto your mobile or your device, you can do this switching irrespective of the browser. Okay, so if it's a mobile device and if you want to see this view, please follow this and add it to your HTML page. Okay, so if you check now, what our aim is that the application that is developed out here, Electro Store, Home, About, and Contact, this has to be looking very good onto a mobile device. So let us take the home page. We would be converting this page into a page that would be rendering onto a mobile device. Okay, so I'll just close this. I will go to my solution, and first I would be opening my layout.mobile.chtml. I'll run this project. Okay, so this is my Electro Store application again. This is rendered on the browser and the browser is on the desktop. I would be picking up this URL, copy pasting it, and that too it would be on my I will just paste this URL and press enter. There you go. So this is my mobile application. This is my mobile specific view for the same site, but it has become user friendly. And if I see the interactions, I have all the categories laid out in neatly designed list view. I click on mobile. I have created collapsible list to select the companies, and when it is done using touch, it is very much user friendly. I close this. I select the feed. I close this and I click on search. So this is it. So this is a very neatly graded view of my application. So all these three sections, the categories, selection of the features, and displaying the devices, is done on the mobile using jQuery mobile specific views. If I click on About button, I do not need to zoom in a lot. If I have my contact, the form is very much within the device width. I have my name. You can enter your email ID. For selection of, you can do a good selection. You can write in notes, and finally, you can click on the submit button. So all of them are very neatly rendered onto the mobile. But if I go to the desktop view, what if all of a sudden I wish to go back to my desktop view? I have this section, that is the view switcher, which is coming into picture. I click on this. I go back to my site, which is rendered on the browsers which are there on the desktop. So this is my desktop view. It is not mobile friendly. What if I want to go back to my mobile view? I click out here. I am there again on my mobile view. So how does this magic happen? It's not magic. It's all jQuery mobile mixed with ASP.NET MVC4. So I just stop the application. And now let us see step by step. So the layout files and the view files for the other web application, that's the normal application, do not change. We would be adding views specific for mobile devices. So if I have to render a view for the mobile, the first thing is getting my shared layout in place. So layout.mobile.chtml. Here, after the package manager or the package has been installed, all my CSS files and my jQuery scripts have been written in bundlemobile.config. This file tells the engine that if you want to locate the style sheets and if you want to locate the jQuery scripts, please go to these locations. Now you need to add this class, you need to register the bundles. So very important thing is go in your global.asax file, that is the application start, and you have to write this line that please register these bundles if the mobile view have to be rendered. So I go to my layout.mobile.chtml page. Okay, I have my 2 lines wherein I tell that please render the styles from this section, please render the styles from these bundles, scripts from these bundles. And finally, if you see the markup, most of the elements, in fact the elements which have got to play a certain role, they have been marked with certain attributes, that is the data role. So right now if I have to render this view onto my mobile, I will have the data role of a page. If I want to a header to be there into my page, I have the data role set to header. I want a navigation bar, I have the data role set to nav bar. I want to render the content onto my mobile view. So in the shared layout, I have the render body. This is the razor sharp syntax. And finally, the view switching that you did from desktop view to the mobile view and vice versa, that is done by using view switcher, which is there out here. The logic is written. What has to be done when you're displaying a mobile view, what has to be done when you're doing a desktop view. Okay, so here I have my HTML5 or HTML elements marked with a data attribute, and jQuery mobile and the scripts are capable of picking up these attributed markup language and finally giving them a specific role onto the mobile device. So this is the shared layout, and within this shared layout, the render body will display all the content in the respective files. So the first file that gets rendered is index.mobile.chtml. So if you see this view, this was home, about, and contact. This is the nav bar, this is the header, and this is the view switcher. You have this section being displayed. It is a list view. And because I have a page already for the mobiles, I have set the link to mobiles. I have all these links out here, and I want it to be displayed like a list view. So I have this list being displayed, which renders easily across the mobile. When I click on it, I go to another page that's called as mobiles.mobile. Here I have the UI written for selecting the features, selecting which company it is, and clicking on the search button. So it is a collapsible list. How is it done? You click on the, if you see this div section, it is playing the data role of collapsible, so it will create a collapsible set. I have a theme set for the inside stuff. Okay, so, and because it is rendering easily onto the mobile device, and I want good margins across my control, I have data inset set to true. Now the header is select company, and this is the way you write checkboxes. Label, input type checkbox, and so on. Now if you want all these checkboxes to be not away from each other but grouped into well-designed checkboxes. You need to wrap it around a field set which has a control group as a data role. So here you have created two collapsible sets, one for selecting the company and the other is for selecting the features. Same type, but just the namings have been changed. And when they are rendered onto the mobile device, they take care that space is not being misutilized. You select a company, select the features, close it. You select features, and then you close it, and finally you have the search button. The search button, here the data role is of the button. I wanted an icon onto my search buttons, hence I have data icon is equal to search. And finally, I wanted to go to another page called as mobiles display, where I would be showing information of what the mobile is. This is the mobile, this is the company name, and right now if I go into my mobile display.mobile, I only have 3 items for the display, because there are a lot number. I can also write more, but for the demo purpose I have just taken up 3 columns, that is the model name, the memory and the camera. I am iterating over each item in the model, and hence the list is getting displayed. Again, if you see, it is playing the role of a list view, and here I have a data filter set to true. So if I type Sam and I press enter, I have the filter ready even without me writing the logic for the filtering. It is done by jQuery. So this is something really good out of the box, and your view is back. That's it. Okay, so this is how I navigate. I go home, I click on mobile, I select the company, I select the features, I click on search, and I get my list. So it is a very good view as compared to your desktop view. Okay, this is some problem because I guess, yeah, so now that was something else. I need to go back. Okay, that is because it was not capable of running right now. It's not running. Then you have this about view. Okay, I switched back. Let me go back. The emulator sometimes renders, sometimes does not render. You don't need to worry about the logic. The logic is in place. There might be some problems with the emulator, so it's absolutely okay. You can go back, you switch to your mobile view, and here you see it. So this is about Electro store page, and I have the about.mobile.html out here. I have the heading, I have my para, and finally the contact form, which is very neatly rendered within the width and the height of the browser. Complaints or suggestions, these are radio buttons grouped. So if you see the markup for contact, I have my input for the name, I have my input for my email ID, I have my input for the contact number, and finally I have grouped the radio buttons into a field set, and they play a role of a control group because I do not want them to be scattered, but I want them to be together. So the margins and the spaces have been removed, and there is a neat layout of the radio buttons. And finally, there is another text input for your notes or your suggestions, and you have the submit button. So this is how a simple application, a web application which was designed for the desktop using jQuery mobile and ASP.NET MVC4. I have not touched the business logic at all. I have just worked on the UI. It's easily very much possible to scale up your applications to the mobile-based applications. Okay, so I have another 5 minutes of the session, and to work on these demos, these are my set of references. A good book, WordPress Pro, jQuery Mobile, and another good book for MVC4, ASP.NET MVC4 in action. Some of the best sites, and that's it. Thank you so much. So I am done with my session, and this is the view.
For the insightful presentation. Let's quickly take up the questions now. I have assigned you a few questions. Please read out them and their answers so that our users may listen to your commendable insights.
Yeah, so I have a question here, like, is there any need of adjusting layout according to the screen size of the mobile? This is not required actually, because if you see very carefully in your ASP.NET MVC4 application, there is a tag called as viewport meta tag. If I go to your layout.chtml, I have my meta tag viewport. So this will take care of the screen device. You don't need to go and just adjust the layout according to the screen size of the mobile. Okay. The next is, does layout.mobile.chtml be already included? No, it will not be already included. When you are adding a jQuery.mobile.mvc package, you would be getting just layout.mobile.chtml. By default, it won't be added. If you're using a mobile application template, specific only mobile application templates would be added. Next is there any difference if I want to render it on the Android-based cell phone? No, there is absolutely no difference. See, the browser will be capable of detecting it. So you don't have to write, Android is an OS actually, it's not a device. So Android is an OS, it's rendered, it's there on the devices. So I don't think there is a necessity of creating another site specific to browsers on the Android OS. Yeah, so next is, can we have the links displayed again? Yeah, sure, why not? There are two books which I referred. One is WordPress Pro jQuery Mobile, and the second book is ASP.NET MVC4 in action. They have good set of demo applications, and these are some of the sites. Code Project, another guy called as Hanselman, who has made a switchable desktop and mobile view. Finally, yes, the jQuery Mobile and the ASP.NET MVC4 features. I can just click on one of them. Yeah, so this is the references section. Then, okay, how easy it is for a new developer to learn jQuery and start developing mobile web apps? I would suggest first see mainly what jQuery is, the basic elements of fetching an element, passing on the data. And jQuery Mobile, you don't have to do anything in jQuery Mobile. The jQuery Mobile itself will take care of the elements. It's only that you have to add the proper data role attributes to your HTML5 markup. Okay, my next question is, how can I ensure that this will work same on all the phone with different screen sizes, including tablets? If you see my mobile emulator right now, okay, and I have my mobile emulator, there are different profiles already. So if I just take some weird profile, I don't know which device this is, okay, and if I launch it, the Opera mobile emulator has got many profiles to test your link. So you can just enter the address and check whether the rendering is same on the mobiles or not. So you can use different profiles from the Opera mobile emulator, and it's free of cost. So you don't need to bother about getting other kinds of emulators. Okay, does the design, my next question, Is it not possible to create a single HTML5 for all the interface? No. See, right now already you are writing the business logic out there at one place. Now, there has to be something different, right? There has to be views in place. You can have multiple views. How can you have, and it is just various view files. You're not writing various classes for that. So I don't find relevant that you should have everything in one view. It will just be cluttered. But we cannot have actually, because the view overriding and the display modes mechanism, they identify the naming convention. Then can we use other mobile frameworks like Kendo UI instead of jQuery? If Kendo UI is integrating jQuery mobile, then yes, please check their references section. You can use it. Then is how jQuery mobile is different than other frameworks. jQuery mobile is especially for web-based applications. Now Sencha, Monotouch, there's nothing, a lot of difference. I would suggest jQuery mobile because right now most of the sites are being developed in HTML5. All the web applications are being migrated to HTML5, and just writing a data role attribute does not cost you much. It's easy to maintain. It's very specific. There are various themes. So you can use jQuery mobile, whatever suits your need. Okay. Then the next question is the change made in the global.asax for iPhone, is it required to be carried out for each OS? It's not the OS, it's actually the device, yes. So if it's a Windows Phone 7, then you will have to write this even for the Windows Phone 7. I'll just show you the file. Yes, you will have to write this line for the Windows Phone 7, and it would be WP7. So this line would be repeated for the devices and the views respectively. Okay, so can we use Dev Express to develop mobile application with jQuery and mobile? I'll have to check that. Possible, could be. Okay. Can I change the can I change the user interface layout as per the device width? You can actually, but why are you depending upon the device width? See, if you see the ASP.NET MVC feature of the viewport meta tag, it will take care of the device width. You don't need to bother about it. And jQuery mobile automatically renders the application in such a way that it gets displayed properly onto the mobiles. If it's a desktop view, you don't need to bother. If it's a mobile view, then it's handled by the jQuery. So you don't have to worry about the width, the height, and the resolution of the device. Just take care that your elements are properly attributed with the data role stuff. If the view is not present, it will just degrade down to the default view. So you don't need to worry about that. So, okay, if a new phone is added to, do we need to modify the global.asax file again? It depends whether you're creating views for that specific device. If you want to create views only to BlackBerry device, okay, you don't want that kind of a view to be rendered on an iPhone device, then you don't need to modify the ASAX file. But if you want that, I want views only for the BlackBerry, that is the time you're going to use a display mode mechanism and write the write this logic. Okay, last 5 more minutes. More questions. How can you adjust the screen size of the view by changing mobile horizontal to vertical as in modern touch mobiles? Screen size of the view. You don't need to worry about the screen size. See, now if I go to this mobile emulator, okay, and if I change this orientation actually, if I just go to this emulator right now, you'll see that the application has got easily scaled up for the device. So you don't need to do anything related to the screen size of the mobile application. The application is well tuned enough with jQuery mobile to take care of that. Again, if I change the orientation, okay, the mobile will show you how the view is rendered. So see here, if I go back again, I have a pretty good rendered view onto my screen. If you want to switch back to the desktop view, sure enough, go here. You have it again out there. You have your basic file out there, but I cannot guarantee that the desktop view is going to show it more better. So what you do is you just go back to the mobile view and see. Yeah, so it's up to you whether you have a view switcher in place. You don't need to bother about the screen size. If you feel that the page is rendered well onto a view that was created for the desktop based application, just go to the desktop view. And if you feel that, okay, when I come to my home screen, the screen is not being rendered good onto the mobile, just switch back to the mobile view. That's it. I want to change the UI with the orientation change. Is it possible? I guess jQuery mobile is capable of changing orientation, but I am not sure on that. I'll let you know for sure. Okay, then that's it. I am almost done with my session and the questions. Thanks a lot, guys, for being there and being a part of the session. If you have any queries, please email me your feedback. I would make it a point to answer your questions. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you so much for the insightful presentation. I'm really thankful to you for conducting this webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the session would be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Yeah.